Statistics Canada and the numbers. The median retirement savings for a private sector Canadian age 55 to 60 for with no workplace pension, $3,000. Not $300,000. $3,000. Now look at their neighbor. Same age, same city, civil servant, retiring this year. $70,000 a year. Inflation protected, guaranteed for life. Same country, completely different reality. And the gap between them isn't bad luck, it's structure. If you've spent your career in the private sector, building your RRSP, contributing to your TFSA when you could, telling yourself it would add up. This video is for you. Because what you're about to see isn't opinion, it's documented, it's mathematical, and it's been hiding in plain sight. Today, you'll discover the exact dollar gap between a private retirement and a public one, the tax structure that can take nearly half your savings the moment you die, and 3 legal strategies that most Canadians in their 50s ever hear about. One of these strategies can legally reduce CRA's share of your estate to almost nothing. We'll get there. Stay with me. But first, you need to see exactly how wide this gap really is. This channel breaks down the financial systems shaping Canadian retirement, the rules, the traps, and the strategies the well-advised already know. Let's get into it. Meet Mark, 58 years old, electrician, 30 years in the trades, private sector his whole life. He opened his RRSP statement last month, $87,000. He closed the folder because he'd just done the math, and the number he needed was nowhere close to the number he had. Now meet David, also 58, federal civil servant, same neighborhood as Mark. David retired 3 years ago. $70,000 a year, fully protected against inflation, arriving every single month, for life. Same Canada, to completely different retirements. But here's what most people miss about David's situation. His pension isn't just monthly income. It carries enormous guaranteed economic value that Mark has to build himself from scratch with his own savings. And when you see the number, it changes everything. To generate $70,000 a year in retirement from personal savings, Mark would need to accumulate between $1.75 million and $2.3 million. That's not an opinion. That's what actuaries call a safe withdrawal rate calculation. Mark has $87,000. He would need to save roughly 25 times more than he currently has in the years he has left. And Mark isn't the exception. He's the median, the typical private sector Canadian entering their final decade before retirement is carrying a gap of over 98% of what they actually need. David's pension, by contrast, arrives fully funded, fully managed, and fully protected by the employer. Mark carries 100% of that risk himself. But the savings gap is only half the problem. Here's what the data shows. In Canada's public sector, nearly 80% of workers have a defined benefit pension. In the private sector, less than 9%. On average, after occupational adjustments, government employees earn higher total compensation, retire earlier, and face a job loss rate of just 0.6%, compared to 3.2% in the private sector. But the tax code widens the gap further. In most cases, a public servant can split their DB pension income with a spouse at any age. That keeps their household tax bracket low from day one of retirement. A private sector worker cannot split RRSP income at all, cannot split RRIF income until age 65. If Mark wants to retire at 58, every dollar he pulls from his RRSP is fully taxed in his hands alone. No splitting, no relief, no flexibility. He built the savings, but the tax code treats his savings differently, and it treats David's pension. Nobody passed a law banning retirement, but when one group retires with guaranteed pensions, lower risk, and better tax treatment while another carries nearly all the financial risk, the result can feel like an invisible retirement ban. And it gets significantly worse at death. Here's something most Canadians don't find out until it's too late to do anything about it. When Mark eventually passes, and his surviving spouse passes after him, something called a deemed disposition is triggered. Every dollar remaining in that RRIF is treated as income earned in the final year of life, all of it in one tax year. On a $1 million RRIF in Ontario, the terminal tax bill approaches for $190,000, nearly half, collected by CRA before a single dollar reaches Mark's children. Now what happens to David's pension at death? His spouse receives a lifetime survivor benefit, no deemed disposition. No terminal tax event. The private estate is taxed aggressively at the exact moment it's most vulnerable. The public pension passes with full structural protection. But here's what changes everything for people in Mark's position. Mark's situation isn't hopeless, but the window to act is time-sensitive. Here are 3 strategies that well-advised Canadians are already using. Strategy 1. The RRSP meltdown. Most people wait until 71 to touch their RRSP. That's exactly when the tax bill becomes hardest to manage. Instead, begin drawing down your RRSP early, at 55 or 60, during low-income years. Withdraw only what keeps you in a lower tax bracket. Then move that money directly into your TFSA. Inside the TFSA, it grows tax-free, it withdraws tax-free, and it transfers to your heirs without triggering a tax event. You're not avoiding tax. You're paying it now, at a lower rate, instead of your estate paying it later at the highest rate. Strategy 2. LIRA unlocking. If you left an employer and your pension transferred to a locked-in retirement account, there may be a one-time window available to you. In Ontario at 55 and Alberta at 50. Pension legislation allows you to lock up to 50% of that account. Move it into a regular RRSP. Suddenly, money that was restricted is back under your control. Strategy 3. Pension maximization. If your spouse has a DB pension, instead of taking the reduced joint survivor payout, they elect the maximum single life benefit. Then use the extra monthly income to fund a permanent life insurance policy. When they pass, the policy pays a tax-free lump sum to your family. A pension that would have ended now leaves something behind. Now, to be completely fair about the other side, public servants made a real trade. Many accepted lower private sector salaries for decades in exchange for job security and pension guarantees. That was their agreement. That was legitimate, and managing a pension fund that pays guaranteed income for life is genuinely complex and expensive. The issue isn't with public servants. Most of them made a reasonable career choice. The issue is that the private sector worker was never offered an equivalent deal, and the tax code has never been updated to give them equivalent tools to compensate. That's the structural gap, and it's widening every year. Remember Mark, he closed that RRSP folder. But what if he didn't stop there? What if he opened it again and started a meltdown strategy at 58 instead of waiting until 70-1? Same savings, different plan, significantly different outcome for his kids. The math doesn't change, but the strategy does. Here's what we covered. The retirement gap between public and private sector is structural, built into coverage rates, tax rules, and risk allocation. The terminal tax bill can consume nearly half of a private estate at the worst possible moment, but the RRSP meltdown, LIRA unlocking, and pension maximization are real, legal, and available to most Canadians over 50. Your one action step. If you're over 55 and in a low-income year right now, that is your meltdown window. Talk to a fee-only financial planner this month, not next year, this month. If you're a private sector worker, what does your actual retirement picture look like right now? Drop it below. I read every comment. If this gave you something your advisor never mentioned, subscribe, because this is exactly what we break down every single week.